it's Corey. Welcome to tonight's show. We have a very special guest, Mr. Frank Bianco. Frank, why don't you say hello to our listeners?
Evening, everybody.
A little backstory on Frank. A graduate of Florida State University with degrees in economics and public administration and policy. With over 20 years experience in management systems, Frank has been able to leverage his knowledge and experience in the psychoactive and non-psychoactive sectors of the cannabis industry. Frank is the sole owner of Full Melt Fusion, a cannabis consulting firm, which was founded in 2011 in the state of Colorado, and now has expanded into the territories of Maine and Florida. Frank and Full Melt Fusion's process and formulations have been featured on CNN, National Geographic, Fox News, and online and local publications. Frank's relentless pursuit of knowledge in the cannabis sector has led him to start the Science of Cannabis Foundation in 2015. The foundation's sole purpose is to maintain and further research and developments in the psychoactive and non-psychoactive properties of cannabis. Committed to the spreading of education of cannabis to the global consciousness in late 2015, Frank published a book named after the esteemed foundation, The Science of Cannabis. His book is focused on educating a reader who has no or little background or understanding of cannabis, and serves as a primer for the subject for any reader with any background. We got a little Q&A today to give our listeners a little insight into the cannabis industry from an expert extractor's perspective. Without further ado, let's jump directly into the Q&A. Well, Frank, what got you into extracting?
Really, it's the probably the science of all the processes that are involved in extracting and purifying concentrates. The purity really, I think, was probably the most attractive element to it. Was almost like the race for getting the purity levels on all the different types of extractions that I was aware of at the time to the highest levels of purity that I could, at least setting or exceeding the industry standard.
And what do you mean by purity?
Purity as in, depending on whatever cannabinoid we're looking to refine, or terpene or flavonoid profile, basically the purest that we could get in regards to plant materials / contaminants to essential oils and flavonoids and terpenes.
Oh, that's awesome. So what was that journey like for you?
Pretty crazy. It started out, when I actually moved over to Colorado, it was the first thing I got into within the first 2 months that I lived here, was I started doing dry sifting and solventless or bubble hash. Some people call it solventless now because it's got a little bit of higher purity. And then I got into hydrocarbons about 3 months in to moving to Colorado, and I was doing hydrocarbon extractions outside behind the MIP I was operating out of, and it was pretty crazy because honestly any other place inside was actually dangerous because there was no regulation for Class 1 Div 1 rooms, and there was no regulation in regards to where you could actually extract. You had people blasting at their grows, unaware of the dangers of some of the equipment that they have around while they're doing the extraction. Could be actually very dangerous. So I tried to do it outside because I knew that I couldn't get a whole room dedicated to myself to do extractions inside. So I guess the dangers in the beginning probably made it the most extreme, I guess, in regards to the experience. And I'm glad I skirted through that in regards to my safety without having any issues with that. Because some of the buildings that I was operating out of also were old. There's pockets in the floors, pockets in the walls where the floors and the walls meet, where butane can roll down. You got an electrical exposed conduit or something, and it sparks up, and the next thing you know, you didn't even see the danger there, but it was there because it was just an older structure you're operating out of. So it was pretty crazy in the beginning, but I'm glad that the regulations have evolved to the point that they're at, where it makes these environments a lot safer to be involved with.
Oh, absolutely. Safety first, my friend. So what is your experience been like in the Colorado cannabis industry?
Again, it's been pretty wild. You'll meet some of the nicest people that you've ever experienced before in life in this industry. The most compassionate people that I've ever met. But then again, I've also met the most cutthroat people that I've ever experienced too. When you think of a new emerging industry and you think of certain entities taking advantage of that emergence and basically capitalizing on the lack of regulation, those entities tend to dominate their portion of what their space in the industry. Whether that be not taking care of their employees properly, not taking care of the quality standards that they put on the product that they create, whether they just do whatever the path of least resistance is in regards to transportation and the legal handling of the product. It's been interesting, but it's getting more regulated now, and I think it's evolving into a better sphere in regards to what it's offering as a role model to other states that are currently going through the process that Colorado went through about almost 10 years ago now.
Nice. So it sounds like your experience has been kind of a little bit of both worlds, you know. What has been your biggest struggle as a cannabis extractor?
I'd have to say probably the dangers associated with the actual process. Again, I've been in multiple facilities, and not everyone hires the same contractors. Not everyone hires the same type of electricians or any type of multitude of people. So you're getting different jobs at different facilities, and you got to hope that whoever performed those jobs did it right. And if you're performing extractions in these facilities, really knowing who did the build out of the facility really helps understand the type of quality of work that you're dealing with, so that you can safely perform extractions without having to worry about every minute of the day that you're in there performing extractions. Is this going to be the day that I get lit on fire? So probably the dangers has been the biggest struggles. I personally have never had any issues in regards to being in a lab environment. There are any fires or anything like that on my watch, which is great. I've been lucky to have not experienced that, but some people have not been so lucky. And I think the dangers definitely need to be known ahead of time, and I think that people need to truly understand the solvents that they're dealing with when they're performing these particular extractions.
Oh, absolutely. You get out there and you have just the average Joe messing around with extremely flammable gases. It can get very dangerous very quickly. So moving forward, what's your favorite extraction method, and why is that?
I guess personal wise, I would say probably dry sift, solventless, rosin, and then probably hydrocarbon. Commercially, I would definitely say hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon or some form of distillate or crystal probably would be like the top extraction methods that are recommended.
When you say you use a lot of technical jargon there, like hydrocarbons, can you elaborate that for some of our newer listeners?
Sure. Hydrocarbon, I mean using butane or a mixture of butane and propane to create the end extract. So the hydrocarbons actually do sink to the ground when you actually run the extraction, versus alcohols, which will actually float towards the ceiling or go as high as they can actually go, and they'll create pockets if the ceiling is gabled or there's any dips or pockets in the ceiling. It'll actually settle in those pockets. With the adverse of it, where a butane or a hydrocarbon will actually sink to the floor, and you'll be able to also have pockets and little cuts between the wall and the floor, where these gases can actually sit and build up and potentially be hazardous if they're not dealt with or properly evacuated from the premises.
With those being your favorite extraction methods, are you specifically loyal to any equipment for extraction? And which ones would those be?
I would definitely say ETS, probably for hydrocarbon, or the Emotech, the Obi. Sasquatch press for rosin, probably Bubble Magic for doing solventless extractions. And then Across Internationals, definitely. They make some of my favorite extraction equipment or purging or post-processing equipment that are around. So
that actually leads me to my next question. Do you have any specific purge methods that you use for your extractions?
Yeah. So basically, each type of extraction will dictate the type of purge method, and they're all not uniform in regards to there being one method for all of them. But I guess the overall arc of the story is to achieve the highest purity, and then that regards is the highest percent cannabinoid that you can get in the end extract. And if you're trying to go for a terpene or a flavorful end extract, then you're gonna adjust your ratio of cannabinoids to other constituents, which would induce the flavor or the smell or the aroma that you're looking for. So, yeah, it's basically going to fluctuate depending on the type of extraction that you're performing.
Okay. And when you're purging, what's the most common contaminant involving your concentrates?
It's probably the one that's least thought about, and it's probably solvent residue that's left inside the extract that's not properly removed.
So you mean like propane and water and things of that that nature being left in the product?
Absolutely, butane, alcohol, all those, or it could even go down to the point where you cleaned your tools maybe with like an acetone or something else, and that solvent ended up translating into your end product because you didn't clean your tools properly or let them dry or wipe them off and make sure that they were completely dry before you started touching them to your extract. I mean, so it could even not only be something that's induced through the entire process itself, but it also could be something that could be induced through a method that you're doing externally to the actual extraction process that could be contaminating your space as well. And that also goes along with gloves. A lot of the times people are lazy to take off their gloves and pop on a new pair, but think about the amount of the amount of money that concentrate is representing that you're removing from the machine, and then two, you also have to think about the type of quality do you want your work to represent? Like, how do you want your work to represent you as an extraction technician or an extraction artist, whatever you call yourself? How do you want your work to represent you? So those are things that you have to really take into account when you're doing an extraction, and especially when you're doing an extraction that are going to be consumed by other people.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Usually people are more focused on the process contaminants, not really the post-process contaminants. So that's a very good point, Frank. Which brings me to the next question. What's your biggest struggle in solvent-based extraction?
Probably residual solvents would be the biggest thing that I see personally going on in the industry, where we have guidelines here in Colorado in regards to the solvent profile that's allowed in a concentrate that's allowed to be sold on the shelf to the public, and a lot of people aren't able to make it into that threshold. They're getting better with what their processes are by conforming to that guideline. I mean, the guideline was loosened recently, which was a total disaster, but that's a subject for another conversation. But residual solvents are pretty much the largest contaminant. That, and people who get obviously plant material in their extracts that shouldn't have plant material in them. And also, honestly, there's also residues on the plants that you could be rinsing off when you're running a solvent over the plant. I mean, when you run these oil-based pesticides or these oil-based fungicides, and they're not properly removed from the plant, or they're sprayed on the plant too late in the flowering period. I mean, this could be issues when you're running the extract, the concentrate off the plant. And solvents happen to bind to these particular chemical compounds, and it actually will pull it into your concentrate as well. So that would be, I would say, the biggest struggles for solvent-based extractions.
And on the other hand, what about solventless?
I would say probably plant particulate, mold and mildew. Plant particulate would probably, for me personally, would probably be more associated with like a dry sift or even a solventless extraction, like a rosin or like a press or a water extracted hash, or heat extracted hash with it being pressed. So you could run into that, and then also mold and mildew. Obviously, if you don't have your products not aerated enough, there could be pockets that are still wet, which could develop a boisterous or gray mold or any other type of mold or mildew that could be in the environment that could actually fester on that substrate, technically, of what it would be for those to gestate. And so
you touched on several aspects of cultivation, like the pesticides and the fungicides and the molds and funguses that can form on the buds. So why don't you tell us a little bit about cultivation and how it affects the extraction process?
Nice. All right. So cultivation-wise, I would say, well, for one, it's definitely going to be anything that you're doing in the cultivation process is going to be transparent in the extraction process, and it's really going to dictate the end quality of your extract. I've seen a lot of third-party operations where they're doing third-party processing for multiple different grows, and they basically turn it into extract, and then the extract gets given back to the client. And you actually could tell, like, the stuff that people send in, that you would think that some of these companies are reputable companies that, turn out quality product. But then when they send you some stuff that you get in to process, and the end process is dictated by whatever you put in, you wonder, like, where's the beef? But I mean, in the long run, really, it's going to be whatever you do on the plant is going to translate, especially if you put fungicides and pesticides on the plant too late in flower. Again, those can not only destroy your trichomes and all your glandular structures on the plant, but also it could bind to those even and not get rinsed off when you do a rinse of the plant. So you need to really understand who the grower is. If it's an in-house processing, really know the grower, understand the grow process when you're running your extractions on certain products. And if you're doing third-party processing, really understand the type of product that you're getting in from whatever client you're processing for, and then use that as an indicator to dictate what type of quality you should expect on the back end, because you don't want to get unrealistic expectations on your extract because you think you're going to get a better quality or boast a higher return on the product with a higher purity, and you end up not getting that because you weren't able to achieve that because the beginning product wasn't up to caliber to what your expectations were on the back end. So really that is understanding what type of product you're actually running when you're doing an extraction. And if you could understand that, and you could understand that they took the quality steps to get you the product that you want to extract a certain way, like let's say that you have to flash freeze the plants once they get cut down, you want to know that those plants were kept at a certain temperature, from when they got put in the freezer to the fact that when you get it put up to it, when it's time to extract that, it's been maintained the temperature and it hasn't been flashed and taken out of the freezer and left out for 8 hours and then put back in the freezer. I mean, these are things that are good to know too. So understand the parameters of everything that happened to the plant material before it got to you to perform your extraction.
Excellent. And you were just discussing how there's third-party extractors out there, and a majority of the industry utilizes those. In my opinion, it's kind of created this celebrity extractor hype that's been kind of going around the industry. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess like extraction artists. I guess that would be something like, or like people who say that they could do it better than anyone else. I mean, it really comes down to like the technique and whatever technique that you've been trained on. I mean, a lot of these machines are really like, not only are some of them color coded, but they're also they have SOPs with them that you can follow the SOP, and that'll literally just tell you how to do the whole extraction. So, I mean, it's really to the point where what makes you like an extraction artist, I guess, is just to be cutting edge. So it's almost like a misinterpretation, because like being cutting edge and like coming out with different types of techniques, like Nick T over here in Colorado, he's been cutting edge. I mean, I've been following that dude for the past 7 years now, actually. And he's one of the guys that I knew knew what he was doing in regards to the extraction realm, and it was one of the first concentrates that I personally purchased out here. So to me, he's cutting edge. That to me is like a celebrity extractor, somebody cutting edge. But somebody who can just read an SOP and just follow guidelines, and they just know what the manufacturer dictates to them. I mean, not really. No, I mean any monkey can turn a wrench. You know what I mean? It's being cutting edge in regards to what you're doing for the industry, what you're doing for extracts, what are you doing for concentrates particularly. That's really what's going to draw the line between celebrity extractor or just somebody trying to fake it till they make it type of thing.
Nice. Just listening to you talk, it sounds like you really, really enjoy extracting. What do you enjoy most about it?
Probably creating consistent products, and also the purity of it. Having the desired expectations that you have before you perform the extraction be the end result of that extraction. Letting you know that the time that you spent to perform that and the meticulous things that you performed to make that happen really came to fruition. And the fact that you can stand behind the things that you make, I think really is probably one of the best things that you could pull away from. And what I pull away from it is really that. And the extractions don't take as long as, like, let's say if you're growing a crop. I mean, you're growing anywhere between 70 to 90 days. So it takes a long time for you, right? So it takes a long time for you to see like your plan come to fruition, versus an extraction can be performed normally within an hour, unless you're running some kind of CO2 or a long process or long soak or some kind of long process. Most extractions could be performed within an hour, and then you can have almost the end result at least visualized before it either goes into purge or it's either purged, because you're doing dry sift. Obviously, you'd have that faster. So I think the fact that you can get the turnaround time of the result of what you're performing is a lot faster. I think that's something that attracted me most to doing extracts and concentrates.
Nice. And on the contrary, what would you enjoy least about extracting?
Ooh. Well, bringing back to my biggest struggle, I guess, it's going to be probably going to be one of the same things. It's going to be the dangers of being exposed to these different environments. I know, particularly as doing cannabis extraction consulting for these companies, or even hemp extraction consulting, which is even a less regulated industry here. You're going into multiple different types of extraction environments. Most of the time, there's operators operating the machine. You got to hope that everybody who is involved with the build out of the room they knew what they were doing, they did it properly. You got to hope that the operators know what they're doing, that they're not texting somebody in the room and they shouldn't even have their phone in there, or whatever have you going on in there. When you're going into multiple compounds and multiple manufacturing facilities, it's really dangerous. So me personally, I like to have all my safety equipment on me. I always wear safety glasses when I'm operating in a facility that's I'm foreign to. I wear the safety glasses. If you have an LEL meter, you can detect hydrocarbons in the air. Always bring some gloves if they don't happen to have any there. They should have them there. But yeah, I mean, probably the least is like this overly preparedness. I mean, have a respirator. I mean, you shouldn't have to carry this stuff around. They should have this stuff at the facilities, but some people don't, and it's very difficult to do a site tour, a site audit, or an assessment of the facility if you don't have this equipment with you and you don't feel safe going in there without it. So that would probably be the least thing that I enjoy about extracting.
Fair enough. So what are your thoughts on the future of cannabis extraction in relation to big pharma?
I think that at first I think it'll probably be a hybridization type situation with extractions. I'll explain that. I think that the understanding that you need to have some plant-based extraction along with those constituents that have a synergistic behavior with the cannabinoids, those need to be present. And to get those and to capture those essential elements, you're going to basically need to do some kind of plant-based extraction, and it's not going to be a synthetic. So when you have synthetic medicine versus natural medicine, and you have them together, I mean, that's more of like a hybrid. That's how I kind of see it going. I mean, maybe eventually down the road, if they have the technology to create exact replicas, synthetic forms of all these chemical compounds, and that they can, cocktail them together into some kind of whatever desired end result you're looking for, based off all these synergistic interactions. That would be interesting to see, but I see it being a hybrid, and I don't see it ever being full synthetic. I mean, the research stands behind the fact that, full synthetic, like Marinol, these full synthetics, they don't work in regards to delivering the same medicinal benefits as an actual plant-based extract consistently does every time. I mean, who wants to take something that's hit or miss? You want to take something that's consistent, especially when you're dealing with medicine, especially if you're dealing with medicine that could be for your child. If they have epilepsy or they have any other type of neurological disorder, or any disorders that they're dealing with where either hemp-based extract or high CBD extract is helping them, you want to make sure that your dosage is not hit or miss, because you want consistency in regards to the things that you're ingesting and that you're ingesting for the people that you care about. So I think that's the hybridization process of understanding the plant-based extract and the constituents of it, and incorporating those into the synergistic behavior with the cannabinoids, I think is essential for the future of any type of cannabis-based extract or hemp-based extract.
Excellent. Kind of on the same line there, what do you see the future of the cannabis extraction in Colorado?
I kind of see it more conglomerating, where there's basically going to be like a small few firms here that kind of represent what's going on. I mean, there is right now an influx of extractors. I mean, there's so many different types of extraction firms here trying to get off the ground, and it's going to be to the point where it's not going to match. There's more extractors growing here each day, so I mean, it's going to get to the point where it's not going to match the amount of even plants to extract versus how many extraction firms exist. So the bubble will eventually burst, and eventually it'll start shrinking. People will drop out of the market. And the people that have tried and true processes, that know what they're doing, that have quality products that they stand behind, that dispensaries stand behind having their third-party products on the shelf, even though they have their own internal extraction processes. I mean, that's a big pat on the back, is when you have a company that does their own internal processing and has their own extract line, but they also sell your line as well because they just stand behind your product that much. Those are going to be the firms that are going to stay here, that are going to be around, and eventually all those extractors that worked for those other firms that got shaken from the tree, obviously they'll probably go to the other firms, and if they're good, they'll probably get picked up, and if they're not good, they probably won't get picked up, and they'll probably have to find a new job doing something else.
Fair enough. And just extrapolating that out, how do you see it going nationally?
I see it turning into very similar of where the economy in Colorado is evolving into. I see it turning into that hybrid pharma approach like I was mentioning earlier. I see it being owned by a few firms that are regulated in the industry doing extractions. All the extraction processes that are being performed, they're completely monitored and watched and regulated to the fullest extent. And I see this happening because, in all honesty, what we really need is we need more plants being grown in this country, not more extraction labs. We have tons of extraction labs. We have more extraction labs than we know what to do with. We have more extraction labs than they have plants to extract, which is crazy. But we need more plants actually grown in this country. But beyond that, I do see a few hybrid pharma type firms being the end result, whether those firms are from the tobacco industry or from pharma or from wherever the funding comes from. I do see that being the approach for the national extraction.
So what do you desire to see happen in the cannabis movement within your lifetime?
I would like to see everyone have access to cannabis and hemp, and be able to understand what the plant can be used for, what the plant does for you, what the benefits of owning this plant is. There's a lot of disinformation out there about a lot of things, and I think that the only information that they should probably add to the table of disinformation that they're already stashing out there is some truth, and that is the truth about the cannabis and hemp plant. It would be nice for everyone to be able to affordably get access to the cannabis plant. I know that, coming over to Colorado or any other recreational state and participating in the consumption of it, it could be very, very pricey. And then, also being a medical patient in the state or a recreational patient in the state, being a resident, it's still pricey. It's equally as pricey for everyone across the board. Recreational prices are not state resident specific. They're not national specific. They're just specifically whatever they dictate them at the dispensary. So it would be nice for people to have access to the amount of plant that they could consume and not have to limit themselves and consume as much as they want. And if they want to turn it into extracts, there should be safe places that will extract people's home crop for them. That is something that I would like to see. I'd like to see some kind of an extraction facility that would process people's homegrown products, especially if they set some kind of quality standards for intake, as if like your product is like this certain quality, we'll extract it for you, but if it's not this quality, we're not going to do it. I would like
That's awesome. I really like that idea, Frank.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen, honestly, because that's really going to bridge the gap between people performing unsafe extractions in their house. I mean, there's countless people that hurt themselves here in Colorado when they're performing these hydrocarbon extractions in their house, and they don't understand what they're doing, or even they might be living in the house every day of their life, but they don't understand the actual, the way their floor tips, and maybe if it's butane on the floor, where is it going to roll to? Is it going to roll to the corner? Does that corner have an exposed wire in the wall somewhere? You don't even know. I mean, no one really understands the actual environment that they're operating in. To perform these extractions, they could not be drying their bubble hash or their water hash out properly, spreading it thin enough, or not microplaning it, whatever they're not doing. They could be actually hurting themselves by ingesting mold and mildews through consumption or vaporization of their solventless waxes. So, getting someone that's professional to perform these extractions, I think, is going to be crucial, and I think people should be allowed to grow at their houses. And if they want to extract it, there should be a place for them to get that extracted where they don't have to worry about hurting their family, their neighbors, or themselves.
Absolutely. Do you have any foresight on the national cannabis legislation or legalization? And when do you see that coming to fruition?
I see it happening in the next few years. I think that we're going to be we're 37 states strong right now for the movement. I do not think that the changing of the guard in regards to the political agenda going on right now with the current inauguration, I think that it's going to be smooth sailing in regards to cannabis legalization. It is a clear market indicator that cannabis is a product and a service that can create millions of jobs for people. It could create millions of different types of ancillary jobs. I mean, not only working directly in the industry, but working as an ancillary industry that services the cannabis industry or hemp industry. I think personally this is going to be the answer that we're looking for in regards to kickstarting our economy in America, is to get nationwide recognition that hemp and cannabis is a plant that's going to take us to the next level in regards to making America great again.
So what would be your best advice for a new extractor aspiring to get into the cannabis industry?
Well, first I would recommend you get trained. Get trained by a professional. A lot of these manufacturers that offer these machines to perform extractions offer training. It's a little bit of an expense. I mean, it could cost you $1,000 to get trained. If you're set up with an outfit that will pay for your training, I mean, it couldn't hurt to just ask them if they'll pay for your training. The fact that you're willing to even volunteer to get trained to furtherly perform a better job for them should be almost a no-brainer for the business owner to be like, yeah, I'll pay $500 and you'll do a better job for me and make more money for me, and the concentrates will be better. Yeah, absolutely. So most of the time it's a no-brainer. But if you have to pay for it yourself, I recommend personally to pay for it yourself. Not only does it make you more marketable as an extractor for future employers or clients if you're doing consulting, but getting trained also lets you know what's going on, what's cutting edge, what are new developments in the extraction scene, how is the machine that you've been trained on already evolving to help you make better extracts. You know what I'm saying? Did they add a dewaxing column, or are there things that are added to the machine? Has the machine been upgraded to a newer model that you need to get retrained on? all these things, new components, anything like that. Those are things that you should be keeping up on, because not only is it going to make you more marketable for an employer, it's going to make you more marketable for getting a raise. It also make you more marketable for getting clients. And then also, keep a progress of everything that you do when you're performing extractions. Keep a log of all your extraction times. Understand how long it takes for you to perform an extraction. Understand all the parameters that go into the extraction. If you're doing a hydrocarbon extraction, understand when you're taking a log, right? How much butane and propane you mixed. Was it a 70-30 split? Was it a 60-40 split? Was it a 90-10 split? How long did it take you to do a recovery time? And that will allow you to understand how long it will take to process a full extract. You can keep track of your times, your ratios, if you're doing a hydrocarbon process, how long it takes for the washing machine to spit out your serum. I mean, everything should be documented. Keep all parameters and track your progress, and this will allow you to create a more efficient extraction system, where you can say, listen, I can perform eight hydrocarbon extractions in an 8-hour shift, and then I can also be purging as well. I could simultaneously purge. So just keep track of your progress of everything that you're doing. Keep track of your efficiencies. And it also allows you to explain yourself if something happens, like the Haskell pump breaks or your compressor breaks or something breaks. You can make note that this is the day that broke. This is what happened. This is why only 3 extractions were performed that day. So not only does the log help you double check what you're doing, but it also helps you keep track of your progress. So get trained. Take notes, be a scientist, don't be lazy, and don't text on the job.
Solid advice there, Frank. One last question for you. Where do you see yourself and your relationship with cannabis in the current year and beyond?
I see myself always having a relationship with cannabis and hemp. I mean, once I got involved with it and I was able to see the type of almost miracles that it could do for children with epilepsy, for myself, for other people, and almost any user that comes in contact with it, to see that it actually will help literally anybody, and it has no boundaries in regards to who it'll help, even down to animals. It's just it's so sacred. It's to the point where how could you not want to have this in your life, and how would you not want to have other people that you care about and that that have this into their life as a positive force. So
excellent. Well, Frank, I had an amazing time picking your brain tonight and getting your expert extractors insight into the largest emerging industry in America. To all of our listeners, if you'd like to get in touch with Frank or any other cannabis consultants, please visit fullmeltfusion.com. I will put a link in the description box. And for those of you who found this content interesting and want more, please hit subscribe and like this video. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.